South Dakota State, thanks in advance for coming out. Enjoy that cool almost $500,000 to get your head bouncing around in Boone Pickens Stadium, but don't stress, you're not alone. Utah's going to get bounced around in the Boone, too. The difference is they're not leaving with the check afterwards.
You are Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma State Cowboys, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, y'all, and hello, all. Welcome back to Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily stop for all things Cowboy and Cowgirl related. My name is Cody Stovall. I want to thank you kindly for stopping by to make this your first listen. We're available on all of your podcasting platforms, visually as well on YouTube. Find me personally on X at AllDayOState. Today, we were brought to you by Game Time. Get in on the ticket buying action today. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use a code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Get in on the ticket buying action today with Game Time. Meanwhile, we get to talk about foosball. And, of course, I could just say South Dakota State is not going to win. Of course, I could just say Utah is not going to win. I could say all that. But I want to add some context here. So why will South Dakota State be leaving happy with a $450,000 paycheck, but not so happy in the wins and losses column? Because, let's face it, they have been the FCS juggernaut the last few years. And last season was yet another massively successful, undefeated national title season for the Jackrabbits, but there was a massive logjam of sixth-year COVID seniors. That sound familiar? They do return the Walter Payton Award winner with quarterback Mark Gronkowski. They do have a very good running back and 5'10", 205-pound Chaminade College prep O'Fallon, Missouri alumnus Amar Johnson. They also have a couple super legitimate transfers, like the 6'4", 255-pound Iowa State defensive end Blake Peterson, 6'6", 320-pound offensive lineman from OU Marcus Hicks, 5'11", 180-pound Colorado State wide receiver Kai O'Day. They've even got a couple of Zane Flores high school teammates on this particular Jackrabbit roster, number 85 wide receiver Joe Roll and 6'3", 210 linebacker Joseph Veith. They do have a legit power 4 size O-line all the way across the board. They certainly won't have any undersized matchups by any stretch. I think the same can be said about the DBs, right? Most of their corners are 6 foot, 200, 6'1", 190, pretty similar to what we have in Stillwater. But they did lose their 2 All-American level offensive linemen, Mason McCormick and Garrett Greenfield, the premier running back who rushed for 1,578 yards and 18 touchdowns last year, and a running back that actually legitimately might make the New York Jets roster is also gone. The top 2 wide receivers, both were twins, and both currently are still with the Houston Texans. They're gone as well. Due to so much phenomenal seniority and leadership like Oklahoma State has this season, they stayed together for so long that it then created a massive gap, and they had to bring in 36 new players for this 2024 season. And unfortunately, 31 of them are freshmen. Lastly, I think, the fact that their zone blocking scheme actually sets up perfectly for us. Like the cherry on top is their zone blocking scheme, I think, is going to help us a lot. When they're trying to manipulate east and west by finding the crease, it's typically already going to be too late. If/when you do in fact find that crease, it will already be occupied by a 6'4", 245-pound linebacker/safety in Kendall Daniels, or the All-American level linebacker Nick Martin, or the other freshman All-American linebacker Colin Oliver. We have guys to fill the holes that you're going to try to find. You will spend all night double teaming Justin Kirkland and Colin Clay. So that will allow the dudes in the back end to have a TFL and sack party in your backfield. And lastly, I think it's fair to add that we have a weapon at punter. I know, a punter. But we have a weapon at punter that they've probably never seen anything like. I don't think there's very many 6'2", 220-pound punters that run a 4.6 40 that played rugby and enjoy contact in their conference or division or the FCS in general. And I guess the same can be said with Utah. they're a very good ball club, right? Very talented and very well coached. I think they had some great wide receiver additions and USC wide receiver Dorian Singer and Tayshawn Lyons from Washington. Cameron Calhoun is a cornerback transfer from Michigan, and he better be a certified All-American because he ain't got no help on the other side. Sure, the offense might be serviceable in the Pac-12. Sure, they do have a very good defensive line and linebacker group for the Pac-12, but the secondary is about to get cooked by a bum-a Baylor squad. Guys, they got transfers in from places like UTEP, Idaho, Syracuse, Utah State, Cal Poly, Stanford, and a barely Division I program in Georgia Tech. While they lost both legit quarterbacks, Bryson Barnes and Nate Johnson. So now they're forced to rely on a true freshman, as they recently announced that they've got a freshman as a backup. Now, if Cam Rising has his 56th injury of his college career, they're now going to shift and focus on Mr. Little Wilson. They lost both of their top running backs and Jaquindon Jackson to Arkansas, so that'll be kind of fun for us. And they lost Chris Curry. They also lost their best cornerbacks in Jocelyn Banks and Travis Broughton to OU and TCU. They lost their starting center to Moneybags U, a.k.a. Texas A&M. They lost two of their top safeties in Britton Allen and Darian Stewart. Darian Stewart went to BYU. Yeah, that's kind of fun. Linebacker Owen Chambliss to San Diego State. Linebacker Justin Medlock, SMU. Big-time linebacker Jadon Pearson, gone. Yet another cornerback, Fabian Banks, gone. How about another corner, Denzel Lawler, gone. So you're telling me that 25 players just absolutely love the Utah brand and the culture so much, and they're bought in so much to Utah coming in and running the Big 12 that they all left. Right? Okay. Quite a bit of them even left to go play against you in the same Big 12 you're claiming to come run. Because there's a big difference between Oklahoma State and Utah. I understand that they're good, but Oklahoma State had like 55-ish upperclassmen that stayed because of Stillwater, because of Oklahoma State and the Cowboy culture. We only had a handful of transfers, and only a couple of them really saw significant minutes. So your upperclassmen got the heck out of Dodge and hit the portal like it was a turnstile. But somehow this Utah squad is going to come in and run things. All righty then. Got it. I don't think it's going to happen. And I'm willing to throw down some coin on it as well. They're not as deep. They're not as fast. They're not as talented. They're just not as good. They are used to playing in that powder puff league that was so good it disintegrated in a heartbeat. Guys, they honestly think that they're good enough to come in and run the Big 12. I really want to bash them super hard and tell them they'll be lucky to have a 500 season because the overwhelming majority of their fan base deserves nothing less. But unfortunately, it's not true. They do have a very, very beneficial year one schedule. Good job, Brett Yormark. They avoid most of the big dogs in the 2024 space for teams that can likely make it to Arlington, but they do not avoid us. So they can't avoid the sweet-smelling A-whooping that they're going to get in Stillwater, America. Followed by Utah, watching the Big 12 title game from the comforts of Salt Lake City living rooms near you. Tis what it is. And I'm not just up here saying, well, we're going to win because we're better. I feel like I gave a decent breakdown as to why. Just like I also feel like the news we have coming in basketball for the weekend is finally, seemingly, big-time news we can all rally around. It'll make it feel like a college football Saturday, possibly. But before we do that, I have to remind the fine folks out here that you got to get tickets to come watch Cowboy football. Just like you got to go watch Jackson Holiday get it done in Major League Baseball. Christian Encarnacion should be coming back soon for the Reds. But you can't do it without game time. You've got to get the best in the ticket game today. It's the authorized ticket marketplace for Major League Baseball, college football, music, comedy, and theater. It allows you to get tickets faster and easier. The last-minute killer deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, lowest price guarantee, basically means the game time is going to take the guesswork out of you buying any tickets for almost anything. The last-minute deals allow you to save up to 60% off buying last-minute tickets for sports, comedy, theater, music, whatever. They've got you covered. The seat views. It's a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy, so there's no ridiculousness of getting put in the wrong section, which does unfortunately happen. The zone deals save you even more when you choose a section and you let Game Time choose the seat. With a backed up Game Time guarantee means you'll get 110% back of the difference if you find a quote-unquote better deal, because it ain't going to happen, Captain. Take the guesswork out of you buying Major League Baseball tickets, Cowboy tickets, Big 12 tickets, and beyond. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but again, create that account, redeem that code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Tell you another thing that's guaranteed is basketball being better. Well, I guess it's not a guarantee per se, but from a small sample size, the shot tracker and everything that we're doing, it's light years different than Mike Boynton. So again, we all wondered, why do we suck so bad at free throws, and why are we so terrible beyond the arc? Why are we so bad at ball movement and getting open shots? Well, now we know, because Steve Lutz has made it an emphasis to change all of that right away. And it was 2 weeks ago, we put up the most amount of shots tracked of any school in the country that uses the same system, which is most schools in the country. Definitely your Power 4 level schools use it. So if we continue to do that, we should have a exciting season. Protect Gallagher-Iba Arena. I don't give a hoot what our record is on the road in year one, as long as we take it back old school, which it does appear we're doing. And old school means protecting Gallagher-Iba Arena. One way we could get ahead of that is by getting another dude. I've heard that this weekend it's probable or possible that we get, and I quote, an almost 6'8" size dude. So if we can get a big-time college football and a big-time college basketball commit on the same day, it would feel like a college football Saturday game day. So who could it potentially be? Well, the best player in Canada was recently offered by O State. This kid was called the next Canadian surefire NBA star since he was 16. Ifosa Oluyogo. Because this consensus 4-star, 6'7", 220-pound small forward has been playing in the Under Armour 18U Nationals before he was ever even really driving a car. He's been tabbed in Canada as an unstoppable prospect. But the come-up is the best part. Pre-COVID, he was a 6'2" guard. Well, then he blew up. Because of that, he plays the game that way and attacks the rim like a guard. He has a very natural feel for the game. Typically, when somebody blows up like that, maybe they'll have a couple awkward years where they're trying to grow into their body. It was a pretty seamless transition for him somehow. He has a strong body that can finish through and around dudes at the rim. His team, Canada, won the bronze medal where he averaged just under 11 points a game, just under 4 rebounds, and 3 assists a game. This would be a very big Mike Boynton level commit that would put a lot of our minds at ease when it comes to Steve Lutz in recruiting. The biggest hiccup for Mike Boynton not being the coach at Oklahoma State anymore is the fact that he was a 5-star level recruiter. If Steve Lutz can get a dude like this, who's being tabbed as the next Mr. Canada, this would be absolutely massive for Steve Lutz. We made the top list, right? So we had several players, a handful of players, cut down their top 5, top 8, top 10, and Oklahoma State made those cuts. So whenever I'm hearing that we might get, or we're about to get, an almost 6'8" guy, to me that cuts out the 6'4" guards that have us in their top grouping. So who's the only other 6'8" dude? That's 4-star forward from IMG Academy in Florida. Kareem Stagg. Guys, I was very excited when we talked about Kareem at this point in time, a little over a week ago. But he's a 4-star forward, right? And we're in the top list schools. But the reason it piqued my interest the most, even last week, was primarily because of the recruiting battle with Michigan. After getting 6'4", 240-pound defensive end Alex McPherson from IMG Academy, and then watching Jaden Sanders make a non-business move by choosing to live in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Like, who does that willingly? Okay. Who wants to go live in Michigan for fun? I don't know. But after getting McPherson from IMG and seeing the ridiculousness of what Jaden Sanders did, it makes me want to see Steve Lutz beat out a Mike Boynton-led recruiting battle. No, Mike Boynton's not the head coach at Michigan. He's an assistant coach, but good and daggone well, he's going to be the primary recruiter, as he should be, because we've seen him cut his teeth in the recruiting landscape at Oklahoma State. Getting quality dudes was never an issue. X's and O's was a problem. And now we're knowing that discipline, structure, accountability, things of that nature were also issues. We're not seeing that now. This is that old school Eddie Sutton style system that I think a lot of us are going to be pretty excited to see, and it cannot happen soon enough. Just like another thing that can't happen soon enough is the world waking up to the idea that the quarterback room at Oklahoma State is fine. One of the biggest reasons being is the offensive line. I mean, we could talk all day about the returning starters and how many players are coming back percentage-wise from last year's roster. We could talk about the 172 starts with the starting 5 offensive linemen. We could talk about the over 220 starts when you combine the other dudes like Isaiah Glass, Taylor Materko, Jason Queso-Brooks. You could even throw Noah McKinney in there. If you go back and look, Noah McKinney was a absolute savage at UNLV. And he's a backup, right? Jason Queso-Brooks scores out the best going back to last season through practices and everything as one of the better O-linemen, but he's not going to likely be the starting guy. You have the captain and Joe Mahalski. You have the guards that you can depend on. Guys, Preston Wilson, I would say that he's almost like a father figure on the team at this point in time, more so than just your average everyday player. So I would say the same with Cole Birmingham. And then you've got Dalton Cooper, who I think is an NFL-level dude. And if you've seen some of the PFF grading, a lot of people think that Joe Mahalski, the center, is going to have a good opportunity to take his talents to the next level. Then you got to talk about Jake Springfield, right? Jake Springfield's just kept his head down. He's continuously grinded, much like Preston Wilson. Guys, there was an interview. Preston Wilson's brother is a lineman at Texas Tech. And he was talking about Preston. And the thing that Preston was able to always give him was inspiration, because in the beginning at Oklahoma State, Preston wasn't getting opportunities. He wasn't getting in. He wasn't getting reps. But he grinded. He just kept going through it. And now look at him. He's going to put himself in a position to do something at a professional level after college football if he so chooses. I mean, that's another big deal. The difference between Oklahoma State and Utah is you got all of these O-linemen that came back. And here's the deal, guys. A few of them have missed a couple of years due to injury, right? So there's a couple of these dudes that physically could probably benefit from not of coming back this upcoming season. But they did, because of the Cowboy culture, because of the way Oklahoma State does things, because of the re-energized, reinvigorated version of Mike Gundy. The fact that their coaches have been there forever gives them a lot of stability, and it allows them to have a lot of comfort, as Stillwater, Oklahoma can be called their hometown. But this is the secret to success this season, is the offensive line. So Alan Bowman, yes, he needed to mature in the pocket. Thus far, it appears as though he's doing that. Now, we won't know until we see him against other teams. Guys, I was on like a round panel show last night, and one of the first things people brought up is 8 years in college football doesn't mean you can get better. I said the same thing, right? I said the same thing in the offseason when we found out that he was going to get that additional 7th year. It's like, well, can he really improve that much after being in the game for this long? I didn't think so. But thus far, it has looked significantly different. It could, again, change, because we don't have defensive ends and linebackers jackknifing through the line and diving at our quarterback's feet, right? You got to get a sack however you can get a sack. That stuff's not happening because we're trying to avoid injury. But even with the little bitty hiccup injuries that we have had, including Ollie Gordon, it's not enough to slow down this Oklahoma State squad. So whether it's Alan Bowman or Garrett Rangel or Zane Flores, this quarterback room all equally can lead us to Arlington because of the offensive line. So even if you just pretended that Alan Bowman hasn't gotten better, that Garrett Rangel didn't go from 182 pounds to 215 pounds, if you want to pretend that Zane Flores didn't walk in at 6'3", 207 pounds and already running a 4.5 40, if you want to pretend that some of that doesn't matter, okay, but put any quarterback you want behind the most experienced offensive line in the country, should be okay. And then you have Ollie Gordon to hand the ball off to. And if he does happen to miss the first game because of this little hip deal, so be it. You're telling me that South Dakota State's going to be able to stop Trent Howland when the Big Ten couldn't fully stop Trent Howland all the time for 4 quarters? But South Dakota State's going to be able to? You're telling me that Utah is going to be able to come in with their good D-line, good linebackers, and not get cooked in the back end with all of our wide receivers? Because we know how fast Talon Shetron is. We know that the team thinks that Brennan Presley and Corey Black can run people down all day, every day. So that's why this season is so big. And that's also why I don't think it matters who plays quarterback. I do think Bowman has gotten better. I think that Rangel has gotten significantly bigger and stronger and faster and understands the offense now being 3 years in to the degree that Mike Gundy wants his quarterbacks to know the system. Zane Flores does offer a little bit of a different packaging. Some of the RPO stuff he can do with Rodney Fields and Sesi Elahi is very impressive, and it can freeze the defense, right? All you need is that couple extra seconds. So maybe Zane looks a little bit more like Spencer, but it's still a dominant O-line. And here's the beauty. If we have injuries, we're fine, right? If one O-lineman goes down, that's okay. We've got Taylor Materko. We've got Jason Queso-Brooks. Jack Indine was a freshman pushing for some legit minutes last year in the 3 deep. Well, it's the same can be said for this season. And of course, we already mentioned Noah McKinney. Noah McKinney, I think, was really, really good at UNLV. I was actually surprised that Noah didn't start most of the season last year. But this idea that without Ollie Gordon, Oklahoma State is going to fall apart is wild to me. So wild, in fact, that a small part of me kind of hopes that Ollie doesn't play in the first game and that we put 60 up on a team that's won almost 30 games in a row and back-to-back national titles. Now, if that were to happen, nationally, we wouldn't get any respect. People would still say, well, duh, it was South Dakota State University. Man, we experienced the other side last year with South Alabama. And the biggest difference, I would say, between South Alabama and South Dakota State is South Alabama had a bunch of transfers from, Louisville and Florida and Arkansas and Michigan State and Auburn. SDSU has a few of those guys, but by and large, they are going to be overpowered. They are going to be undersized to some degree, right? When you're thinking of some of their specialty positions, and they're not going to have the depth, right? So the spots where they have legit big boy size, are they going to have legit big boy depth? Are they going to have the ability to keep up with Oklahoma State that will hockey style rotate defensive linemen this season? Like if you're getting 3, 4 plays, and then you're out 3, 4 plays, and you're out 3, 4, and you're just rotating like that, you're going to stay pretty energetic throughout the entirety of the game. So when the fourth quarter comes and their O-line is sucking wind, we're going to be continuing to operate in track meet mode. That is why I think we beat South Dakota State with or without Ollie Gordon. That's also why I think we beat Utah. If you don't have Ollie Gordon for Utah, that could become a slightly precarious situation. But I'm saying that now, even then, this defense is going to surprise people. And this wide receiver core is foaming at the mouth to go up against Utah's secondary. And if, God forbid, Utah has one player go down in the secondary, that's all she wrote. That's all she wrote, ladies and gentlemen. And I think that's almost over. Mr. Williams. It's Jordan Williams, I believe. 149-pounder for the Cowboys. He had a 17-9 record last year. He was runner-up in the Big 12 tournament. He was 1 win away from qualifying as an All-American at Nationals. Unfortunately, he had one arrestable incident driving a vehicle improperly under Coach Smith, but John Smith did allow him to stay on the team and make it a learning moment. Well, it happened again. And obviously, David Taylor's like, nope, sorry, see you later. So is it going to be Taken Jamison? Is he going to be able to step up this year? Is it going to be Carter Young? I remember when Carter Young, came over from Northwestern or decided to not go to Northwestern and come to Oklahoma State instead. I was super, super pumped. So this is a good opportunity for him. Taken Jamison is a very big-time recruit. We've got a couple other fellows right around that 149, 150-ish pound range that should be competitive. But this is a loss. This is a loss. No doubt about it, although it is good to see that David Taylor has embraced the Oklahoma State culture, and you get 2 strikes here, really. That's it. I don't always love it, but by and large, I'm happy with it. I mean, look what Georgia's going through. Most of the SEC has issues with players getting arrested on a pretty continuous basis. So, yes, the 2024 class, in my opinion, is the most underrated. I think it's partially because of the perception. The perception can change this year. It should change this year. But the Cowboy culture is kind of, infectious all the way around campus. We're going to give you another opportunity usually, but we're not really big on giving you 3 shots. It is what it is. And I kind of like that Mike Gundy does operate that way. He would rather have a kid that's willing to work a little bit harder and needs to, get a little bit bigger, but it's going to do everything the right way, as opposed to an NFL-sized body that isn't going to do everything the right way. We're not Georgia. It is what it is. I'm happy about it. All righty, y'all. I reckon that's all we're going to have for this one right here. As always, I love you. God bless. Go Pokes, and thank you for tuning in to make this your first listen here on Locked On Oklahoma State. You could be anywhere, so happy you choose to be here. Like it if you like the daggone thing. Dislike it if you don't. That's okay, too. More importantly, share, comment, and subscribe. And for your second listen, go check out Locked On Cougars. I think Houston, with Willie Fritz, has a lot of excitement. They're going to be able to do some things. I don't know how deep of a run they're going to be able to make, but their starters are every bit at this level, and their starters are going to give teams a lot of problems, including some of the starters that he brought over with him from Tulane. So go check them out. Like, share, comment, subscribe. My podcast people out there, appreciate you. Hit the stars, leave a review, do what you do. All righty, regulators, a.k.a. regulars, appreciate y'all. We're out of here. Later, my taters.